Thank you very much, Russell. And you did well there to manage the technology problems there that Nick's gone through. Thank you. My name's Omar Shaikh. I'm a director at the UK Islamic Finance Council. The UK IFC is a NGO and is one of the leading advocacy bodies for green and sustainable and responsible finance within the Islamic finance arena. We've been promoting this thematic for just over a decade now. And been leading the charge in this space. Now, in 2020, following plans in 2019, we launched the Global Islamic Finance and UN SDGs Task Force. This was launched with the HMT and Islamic Development Bank and 40 plus global Islamic financial institutions to really look at where Islamic finance as an industry can engage with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The ISDB have reported the financing gap for the OIC region alone to achieve the SDGs is somewhere between 700 billion and $1 trillion. The task force has 4 key working groups. Those working groups are, number 1, reporting and disclosure, where we've issued a report on the UN PRB, how Islamic banks can engage and sign up to the UN PRB. The second area is education and awareness. We've been hosting a number of webinars and roundtables on the SDGs and what do the SDGs mean for the Islamic finance sector at a commercial level, not just at a governmental level. We are currently conducting one of the largest ever global retail surveys on customer expectations and demands towards an understanding of the SDGs. Our third area of work was a working group launched by the Governor of the State Bank of Pakistan, which specifically was looking at that geography and working together with the State Bank, mobilized nearly 15 financial institutions to look at the PRB and the broader sustainability thematic. And our fourth area, which we'll focus on today, is the high-level working group for green and sustainable finance, which was launched at COP26 in Glasgow. That was launched, and the context of that particular working group was off the back of a report which we were commissioned to do by UNDP Indonesia. That was looking specifically at the work of the Indonesian government in issuing the seminal retail and wholesale, indeed, green sovereign Sukuk. The report we issued there unpacks that in detail. I know Pak Nano was on earlier in this webinar talking about that experience. But that report you find on our website details what was involved, the challenges they had, the insights that were garnished, and also looks at some of the other sustainability Sukuk issuances from ISDB, from Majid Al Futtaim Group, from HSBC Amana, Kagamas et al. In that report, we felt there was a commercial opportunity of $30 to $50 billion in the green and sustainable Sukuk space over the coming years. And we felt that it was imperative to achieve that to help the industry and indeed us as a global financial markets achieve the UN SDGs targets by 2030. So at COP26, we launched the high-level working group for Green Sukuk. Our founding partners with us at the launch were Her Majesty's Treasury. John Glenn was with us there at COP26. Miss Mulyani Indrawati, the Minister of Finance from Indonesia. London Stock Exchange Group, Julia Hoggett was with us there. And we had Emirates NDB as a strategic partner also joining, along with Dr. Zamir from Islamic Development Bank. The working group has 3 key objectives, one of which was to ensure that Islamic finance is represented at every COP summit for the next 3 years to highlight, to increase awareness of the instrument and to proactively encourage the issuance of such Sukuks. The other objective was to ensure that Islamic finance aligns with the global standards in green and sustainable Sukuk bond issuances, and to address very specific challenges that we have within the Islamic finance industry. I'm great, and I'd like to now welcome Shrey Kohli, who's head of debt capital markets at LSEG, who has kindly taken on the role to chair the high-level working group for green and sustainable Sukuk. So I'll hand over to Shrey and talk more about what they're doing at LSEG, what they're seeing in the market, and more from there. Shrey, over to you.
Thank you, Omar, and a big thank you to the G20 to allow us to present to you today. As Omar said, my name is Shrey Kohli. I head debt capital markets at the London Stock Exchange Group, a global financial market infrastructure provider. And I personally lead the LSE's sustainable bond market, which has seen over 350 bond issuances in green social sustainability format, and have collectively raised over $150 billion globally. This includes the UK's Green Gilts program, which you heard from Nick earlier, as well as first issuances from emerging markets, the Asia Pacific region, the GCC and the MENA region, as well as Central and Eastern Europe and the Americas. So it really is a global market that we look at. And through the high-level working group, which, as Omar mentioned, was launched at the in November in Glasgow, what we've managed to do in the 6 months since is assemble a fantastic group of global participants, including issuers within the Sukuk market, issuers such as the Islamic Development Bank, Etihad Group, Emirates NDB itself, which you'll hear from Hitesh in a short period of time, global banks such as HSBC, Emirates NBD, and active participants within the legal community, including law firms such as White & Case, Deckard, Norton Rose Fulbright, who are in the weeds of the actual transaction making within both the green and sustainable bond markets, as well as Sukuk markets. And so far, what we've seen is 4 emerging themes appear. And the working group is working towards delivering a report before the next COP27 at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, to describe the state of the market and how it can be driven forward. So this year, from a capital markets perspective, we've seen approximately by the end of May, about $60 billion of Sukuk issued globally. And last year, we saw about $180 billion. So now this follows the trends which we're seeing in global capital markets due to constraints as well as geopolitical crisis, a slower or lower activity within debt capital markets. But within Sukuk markets, there's still a lower proportion of green and sustainability Sukuk than in conventional bond markets. So the emerging themes which the group has discussed include raising education and awareness and building capacity within Sukuk as well as green and sustainability Sukuk markets. Dr. Zamir Iqbal described this as the double ESG problem, where it is not only establishing a green and sustainability framework, but also establishing and looking at the assets underlying a Sukuk program itself. So there's a major initiative to help issuers understand across the world about not only setting up a Sukuk program, but also what it takes to set up a framework which allows you to issue under a green and sustainable format. And you heard from Nick about the UK's own experience about setting up the Green Guild program. Beyond sustainability frameworks and the capacity building to set up a program itself, we have also talked about a few product-related aspects to the Sukuk structure itself. There's a question about whether global standards for investors and issuers can be pursued, particularly where certain domestic standards diverge with international standards. And there's also been a discussion whether we can engage with the International Capital Markets Association about bringing together case studies or guidance for how the global frameworks under the green and social and sustainability bond principles can be used within the Sukuk market. The third emerging theme includes reporting and disclosure, and this links very closely with the work around education and awareness about standardized frameworks for issuers to make investors aware about their sustainability strategies and the underlying link to the assets which generate the returns within the Sukuk structure, and the link to how it matches with the SDGs, the UN SDGs, or pursuing goals which are in line with green, social, and sustainable investments. And finally, the last emerging theme is looking at the future, whether issues like embedded carbon credits or nature-based finance can be pursued within a Sukuk structure, whether certain thematic structures like social or blue can be pursued within a global Sukuk program, which is underpinned by a sustainability framework as well. So it's been very positive discussion so far, which is leading up to a report which the group is working on, which, as I said, aims to be delivered by the next COP. And the idea, as Omar said, as of the establishment of the high-level working group, is ensuring that this is highlighted in the next 3 COPs. And it's a privilege for us that the next 2 COPs are in Egypt and in the UAE, two leading regions for Sukuk issuance within the Islamic world. It's also fantastic to have the support of the Republic of Indonesia, which has led the issuance of Green Suku globally, including an issuance that they came towards the end of May. So Omar, I'll pause over here and hand back to you and for Hitesh to talk about the issue perspective. But hopefully that gives a good summary of the discussions at the technical working group so far.
Thank you very much, Shrey. It's been great to have London Stock Exchange Group show their commitment to this sector as a leading jurisdiction for listing green bonds and sustainable bonds, full stop, in the conventional space. That experience, that depth of knowledge can really help the Islamic finance sector as well, focus in this area. So thank you very much, Shrey, and in particular thanks, conscious you're on leave as well. You've made time to join us, so much appreciated for that. If I can ask Hitesh Asarpota to also share his perspectives. He's the managing director who leads at Emirates NDB on loan syndication. Hitesh, over to yourself.
Thank you, Omar. It's been a good day, everyone. A very informative session so far. So it's a pleasure to be speaking here today. I've had the opportunity to work on Sukuk issuances since 2005. So it's a space that's very close to our hearts here. And in the recent past, what we've seen is also a significant interest from issuers to invest and issue in green and sustainable formats. And we've had the opportunity to work on various different issuances, from green to social to sustainable, transition, and even blue bonds. And in Sukuk format in particular, I think in addition to the great work done by Islamic Development Bank and the Republic of Indonesia, we've seen ESG issuances from banks like Saudi National Bank, Kuwait Turk, and corporates such as Saudi Electricity and Etihad and MAF. But there's much more that needs to be done. I think, as Shrey pointed out, as a percentage of number of issuances that happen in the Sukuk space, green and ESG Sukuk issuances are still not that many. And after, obviously post various conversations we have with issuers, there are a few aspects that we've identified as key issuer considerations. One, for green in particular, is obviously identification of available green assets and the use of proceeds. That's been restrictive for certain issuers, including one we worked on in the recent past that had a cap of the issue size they could contemplate when they're doing a green issuance. The other aspect that's very important for capital markets is speed of execution and the additional kind of work streams that come into play for some, especially in volatile times like this. It's not ideal to kind of spend additional time in structuring, a format in green or ESG. Additional costs are, obviously one of the other considerations that issuers look like very closely. What is an advantage though, however, which most issuers speak of nowadays is their ability to have a certain positioning and profile, which is increasingly important to issuers. I think it's interesting to point out that today, it's kind of optional for issuers to look at issuing in green or ESG formats. At some point, it could very well be, close to mandatory. So I think it's important that a lot of issuers are understanding and want to move in that space, a bit quicker than they would have otherwise. A couple of other considerations: investor diversity, and for Middle Eastern issuers, we haven't seen as much investor diversity come in if they issue in green or ESG format, or very minimal diversity yet. I think that will grow as more and more funds who focus on other regions as well allocate a larger percentage of their investment mandates to ESG only issuances. We spoke about green in a couple of panels earlier. I think pricing advantage at the moment is relatively minimal, but again, if it starts to give access to more investors, I expect that to change for issuers from this part of the world as well. And then I think the last thing I'll point out is it is not necessarily the right format for debut Sukuk issuers, because there is already a steep learning curve in being able to issue in Sukuk format. And then when you add to that the additional work streams that come into play for them to issue in green or ESG, it is not something that most issuers can manage within a certain time frame, right? So I think what we will see as the number of Sukuk issuers itself grows, you will see as probably a second or a third issuance, most of them have come back to us asking for the ability to be able to issue in green or ESG format. But overall, we remain extremely positive. I think we're just starting off with regards to where we are today, and I think the future looks bright for more Sukuk issuances and definitely more Sukuk issuances in green or ESG formats.
Thank you very much, Hitesh, for sharing your insights there. I think that's very much in line with what we're seeing at the UK IFC. There's a great opportunity going forward, notwithstanding the market dislocations earlier this year due to the geopolitical challenges. But we see $30 to $50 billion as the opportunity over the coming years, and we not just see it as a commercial opportunity, but we also see it as an imperative should we, as a global community, wish to achieve the SDGs, and indeed as the next frontier for Islamic finance as an industry, which can begin to incorporate the spirit of the law along with the letter of the law and really take on and be a leader in the global ESG space. We know trillions of dollars of capital are allocated in this area using PRI as a benchmark for that, or other metrics. So thank you very much once again, Hitesh and Shrey.